Hello, I'm Kevin Hammond with the Ohio Small Business Development Center. In this video, we welcome Ryan Frick with the Columbus Metropolitan Library. He's a business research librarian, expert at those kind of things. Ryan has a master's degree in library science from Indiana University. And he's going to show us some great market research tools today that small businesses can use to help them to research their ideas, customers, all those great things. So welcome, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. As Kevin said, I'm essentially the business librarian. You can call me that. That works. I work a lot one-on-one with small business owners and things like that at the library, and especially showing them a lot of what our resources are. So today I'm going to give a really high-level overview of our resources. I have only like one or two slides, and then I'm just going to basically go right to our library's website and talk through and demo some of our great resources, the ones that we use the most. And hopefully, like I said, this will be a high level overview. So I'll demo with them, but we're going to try to get through a lot of things today. And if any of these seem really useful to you and seem like something you want to know more about, you can definitely reach out to me and we can do kind of a one-on-one meeting and talk through things specifically for your business. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Hopefully you can see that there. So like I said, my name is Ryan Frick, Adult Services Business Librarian at Columbus Metropolitan Library at the main library. And so just briefly, today's agenda, we're going to go over some of the resources that we have at the Business and Nonprofit Resource Center, and then I'm going to go right into navigating the library's website, showing you where the next couple of resources are on there, talk about these in detail, and then and that'll be kind of what today's agenda is. So now, hopefully you can see the library's website here. So any of the libraries, this is columbuslibrary.org. This is the homepage, but any of the library's pages generally is going to have this same navigation here up at the top there. So I want to talk about, primarily we're going to be looking under the adults and the research tab, but I do want to mention, there's of course a lot of programs for kids and teens. Don't forget about that is obviously like one of our main focuses at the library. We also have our events page here. I'm going to show you on the Business and Nonprofit Resource Centers part of the website where you can see just the business events. But if you want to just look at any of the events, including the business events, you can find that under Programs and Events. And also our virtual events, which we call crowdcasts. Those are basically a lot like a Zoom call kind of situation where I'll do like a demonstration of a resource, or we'll have like a guest speaker come and talk about maybe something that their organization offers, something like that. Those get recorded and they'll automatically get put on the website here. And a little bit later, I'll show you a couple of those because I'm going to mention a few resources that I won't be able to go into detail on, but we have some recorded classes on here. And under books and e-content, under e-content here, obviously we have a lot of ebooks. We have business ebooks, other resources like that. But I did also want to mention magazines and newspapers here. When you're doing a lot of like industry research or just general research about what's going on in the business world today, magazines and newspapers are a great way to kind of get that overview. So we have two major ways to access those. Obviously, we have physical magazines in the library. Especially at main library, we have a lot of magazines to choose from, but we also have access through Overdrive and through Press Reader. Both of these have apps. There is like just the Press Reader app, but there is also the Libby app for accessing anything in Overdrive. So a lot of the major periodicals that you might consider subscribing to, you don't actually have to pay for those subscriptions. You can just get them for free right through the library with your library card. So now I'm going to go here. If you hover over adults, you're going to see this pop up here. And one of the sections here is the Business and Nonprofit Resource Center. So this is a thing that this is an area that we opened up last June. So June 2023. So it's a fairly new space for us. This is at the main library. You'll see on the website here, you'll see a picture of, we have kind of this space for small businesses, nonprofits, people to just kind of come and work on those, work with their team members, work with coworkers and things. We have 6 computer space available there. 4 of them are PCs and 2 of them are Macs. And they have access to all of these library resources, as well as, you can't really see it in this picture, but basically behind these computers, there is also a staff desk that is, it's not always staffed continually, but there is often a librarian. Many times it's myself sitting there at that desk and can kind of give you some one-on-one assistance with, with the computers and with accessing some of those resources. And that is here, 3rd floor, main library, 96 South Grant Avenue. So we're continually trying to expand and improve that space, and we're really excited about that. If you scroll down a little bit below that, you'll see 2 things I want to talk about here. The Reserve an Expert link. This is a way for you to reserve some time to meet with me one-on-one. And basically this is set up through a calendar. If I click on meet one-on-one here, you'll have 2 options here. You'll have the option to meet at main library in person or virtually through Zoom. You can pick which option you want, and depending on the options you choose, there are certain days and times of the week that are guaranteed to be available for at least, for one person to reserve. So assuming someone hasn't reserved it yet, those times are always available in my calendar. But if those times don't work, or for some reason you're having any kind of issues with reserving through this way, you're welcome to email me directly at business@columbuslibrary.org. That email address I'm sure I will mention a few times in this video, but if you have questions about any of these resources or you want to know more about them, business@columbuslibrary.org is the best way to directly reach me. And we can schedule a time outside of those calendar availabilities if those don't work for you. We also have here one of the 2 ways to ask for access to LivePlan. I won't really be doing any kind of demo of LivePlan today, but I will show you in a second where you can find a recording where I do, a kind of more in-depth demo of LivePlan. It's a really great business planning resource. I know a lot of other organizations in Columbus have ways to access that or recommend using that as you're building your business plan. It's a really great resource, and it's particularly helpful in that financial section, which I know is kind of the area that a lot of people have a lot of stress over. And I'm not going to say it makes it easy to do your business plan, but it makes it, I would say, as easy as it can be. So if you've done some of your research and you're ready to access LivePlan, you can click here where it says contact the business librarian. And as opposed to the other resources I'm going to show, this one does not just give you direct access to it. It basically will open up a form here where you will, at the bottom, you'll put in your contact information, and then I will get back to you. But it tells you here that you only have access to LivePlan for about a 4-week period. So that's why I recommend having some research done ahead of time, especially like your pricing and your cost. And if you're thinking through some of these things ahead of time and do a little research on your competition and, your target customers, things like that. If you do that ahead of time, then that 4-week time period to use LivePlan will probably be enough for you to finish your plan. And the reason is that we have this sort of time limit is that we actually only have access at this time. We have access to 20 seats per month. So there is a possibility of a wait list. It kind of ebbs and flows with some of the programming that we have, but it is possible that we will have a wait list. So we try to get people to use it for that time. Hopefully they can finish in that time. If not, we might be able to work out something for you, but we are generally rotating people on and off of that access. And if you need help with any of that research, some of the resources I'm going to show today are ways that you can find some data for those sections of your business plan. But that's something that we can definitely help with to get you ready so that you're well on your way to getting that plan done in 4 weeks there. So that's one way to access LivePlan. I'll show another one in a second. The other thing here is this section on the website pulls from that events page, from the events calendar, all of the upcoming events for businesses and nonprofits. It says grants here. That is because there's kind of an older, tag in the website that used to use that term, and we haven't been able to update that yet. But upcoming events for business and nonprofits will all be listed here. Many of them, like these ones you see here, are just drop-in. If you see something that says register, that's going to be for an actual class, like a live class. And this one here, just happens to be for nonprofits here. So you'll see both business and nonprofit resources, upcoming events there, and feel free to register for any of those that you think will be helpful for you. So underneath this box is where you can view our virtual classes. So I'm going to open this up here, and basically you'll see upcoming classes first. And, as you'll notice, these are not necessarily related to businesses. There is one coming up in May here called Know Your Customers. And you should see a picture on any of the older classes that say something along the lines of classes for small businesses. And it would be the same thing for nonprofits. It would say something like classes for nonprofits. If you go down towards the bottom here, you will see a section that says past events. And as you go down a little bit here, you can click next. You can go all the way back through, a couple of years of events. And this most recent one here in February 2024, building a business and live plan. That's a great recording where I basically go in depth on how you kind of can input things into live plan. So if you're interested in watching that and want more information on that, that's a great class for you to watch there. So back to this page here. Underneath all of this here is a link here to the rest of our business resources. So check out our business resources, view resources. And what this does is this takes us to the resources by subject page. So if you're on our website and you see all these collection of different sort of subject areas, there is one here for business. If you happen to be a nonprofit or want to do some research on nonprofits, there is also a tag down here for nonprofits. And so those are kind of the two main sections. But we're going to look at the business ones. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit farther here, and they are essentially in alphabetical order. So it starts here with the first stop business connection, which I'm going to show in a second. But I want to say a little sort of tip or trick here is any of these resources that have a picture with them, like this one says Gale right here, or Business Source Premier. The ones that have pictures are resources that we pay. The library has like a subscription for, right? So any of those, when you click Access Now from home, it will bring up a little pop-up that has you log in with your library card and your PIN number. But once you log in, it should go directly to the resource for you. The ones that don't have a picture there, these are all either government websites or other organizational websites that we think are important for business owners, right? They're things that you could access without going through our website, but they're things that maybe you wouldn't know about necessarily. So the First Stop Business Connection, I'm going to show really quickly here. This is an ohio.gov website. This is a great place to just get started. If you kind of don't know and you need to get connected to some other resources, this is a great place to get started. There's one in particular PDF that I find to be very useful, is this startup guide. It's just called Starting Your Business in Ohio. It's a 19-page PDF that basically has sort of step-by-step instructions on where to go to get started. So this is not necessarily a library-specific resource, but something that I think is really great to get people kind of aware of a lot of the resources that are available and where you need to go, right? So I need to register my business. Here's the website. Here's a phone number, all of these kinds of things. And it does actually mention things like the Small Business Development Center, organizations that can kind of help you on your way here. So I'm going to close that. The other thing I wanted to mention briefly is that there are these checklists here that are for specific businesses. If you need like a license for something for your specific business, it's going to mention that, and it's going to mention where you need to go to find more information about that. So it's kind of a great kind of starting point where I definitely recommend going there, learning some information, and and it can kind of help you on your way there, especially as it relates to any of the government agencies that you might need to be connected to. The other thing I want to show before we get into actually demos is the North American Industry Classification System website. So learning your NAICS code, either for your industry or for maybe a competitor's industry, or potential, if you are working as a business to business company, knowing your potential customers' NAICS code will help you with some of the research that you're going to need to do. So, a lot of times you can just do a simple Google search for let's say you're going to work with a coffee shop or something. And if you search for a coffee shop NAICS code in Google, it's very likely that you'll find the answer pretty easily. But you can also go down here to the reference files and click on this NAICS code and learn a little bit more about the code. But what you're going to be looking for is usually a 6-digit code that will match the industry that you want to do some research on. So that's kind of how that works. So if you know that code, that will help you with using some of the resources I'm going to show now. And I will mention here as well, there is a link here to LivePlan. It does say access now, but it's going to bring up essentially that same form. So just wanted to mention that again. That's how you would get access to LivePlan, is you'll request it through an email. But we're going to go ahead and today we're going to pretend that I'm going to be opening a bakery. And for this demo, for this bakery, I don't have a place yet rented. I'm just considering I know I'm a good baker. I know I've got some products that are really good. And I live in Columbus, but I'm not exactly sure where I want to build my business or rent. I just need to do some research on my customers, where they might be, and how I might want to market to them once I am ready to start, actually advertising things. So we're going to start here in Business Reference Library. And if you're at home, it'll bring up that login screen to log in with your card number and your PIN. And what you'll see here is this is a collection of e-reference books. So we essentially have 27 books or series of books in this resource. It does divide them into business and then into social science. Essentially, all of those are included in the business section. It's just that some of those books you could look at from a social science perspective rather than business. So we can go ahead and click View All here. And the main thing I really want to look at today is the Business Plans Handbook series. This is a really great series that we do have, I think 39 volumes or so in physical format, but as of today, we have 59 volumes in a digital format. This series, which I'll click on here, is a huge collection of sample business plans. So they cover a variety of industries, things that you wouldn't even think of. There's a plan for, a stand-up comedian or a ventriloquist, other things like that, things that, you may not even think about. There are business plans in here. So you should be able to find something either directly in your industry or something related to yours that you might be able to use as a sample. So I can just go ahead and type bakery here and do a little search, and we're going to see several results here. There's one here. This is from volume 57, so it's a nice newer one. I do generally recommend, if you find a newer one versus an older one, I do think the newer ones are maybe a little bit better. But we've got a lot of options here. Bread bakery, depending on what kind of products we're going to be offering. There's a gluten-free bakery, other things. I'm going to go ahead and just click on this first one as an example, and it's going to load in sort of a web format here, which works just fine for us, but you can also just download it and you will get this really nice, basically looks exactly like the physical book does. Kind of looks like if you just printed out a business plan, and you get a nice, this is a shorter plan, it's 14 pages. Yours might be a little bit longer than that, but it goes into, basically it covers a lot of the different areas that are going to be in an actual, full business plan. That's a good place to get started, thinking about okay, what do other people consider, what do they put in their business plan for a similar business? I definitely need that when I'm working on mine. So great place to get started there. Another thing that you can do here, and you'll notice that I used this search bar, search within series. That limits that search to just the business plans handbook. If we search up here in the big search bar, the main search bar, we're going to get stuff from any of those books. So we'll see some business plans, but we will also see things from here, the small business source book. If we go down further, there's this, here we get an industry code, which I believe is the one that I have went ahead and chose for today. We're going to look at something a little bit later, that 31181 or 811. So we kind of learn a little bit here more about our industry, and yeah, a lot of things that show up. So these all might be great resources to kind of dig into for some of the more narrative portions of our business plan. But definitely wanted to mention the business plans handbook, because that's definitely our best resource in this collection. Some of these other ones here are based on the 2014 Bureau of Labor Statistics huge consumer spending survey that they did in 2014. So, we're hoping that eventually this will be updated and we'll have a more up-to-date resource for this. You can use this Best Customers or this American Buyers Guide to kind of dig into who is the best maybe target market for my products. They are a series of tables, and it's not too hard to use these, but it's a little bit hard to show on the screen here. They're very small print, but I just wanted to mention these because they are a little bit, I would say, possibly out of date, especially with some of the events of the last couple of years. It's just a little bit hard to say for sure that they're the best resource for you to base your target customers on, but they may give you kind of a starting point. So feel free to dig into any of those, and feel free to reach out to me if you want more information on those resources. So that's the business reference library. I'm not going to go into this too much, but when you're thinking about your target customer, you literally are picking some demographics. Some, maybe it's their age, maybe it's their income levels. These are all things that I'm sure when you're talking to someone at the Small Business Development Center or other organizations, they're going to want you to kind of really flesh out this target customer base. And you may have different target customers depending on a product line or a different service that you have. So for us today, for our bakery, we're going to just think about it as we want to target families. So we want to make sure we get some birthday parties and other events where these families, they're really busy. They're already inviting a bunch of kids over for this party. They don't want to also have to bake things. So we're going to try to get their business essentially. So we want to know where those customers live in the city, right? Especially because, like I said, in this example, we don't even know where we're going to be, exactly. We haven't narrowed down exactly where we want to open our bakery. So I'm going to show you some resources that can kind of tell you where our target customers live. And then I'm going to take these zip codes that we're going to get, and then I'm going to put them into another database where we're going to get a little bit more information about how to market to them. So to do that, the next resource I'm going to look at here is reference solutions. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit here to reference solutions. So same thing, you click access now, and when you're at home, it'll have you log in. There's a little pop-up right now that it's basically just telling you that this used to be called Reference USA, but it is now called Reference Solutions. And there are several sub-databases here. If you are researching your competition, or let's say as my bakery, I want to maybe get my baked goods into a coffee shop or something, maybe you can research your customers that way if they are businesses. This is where you can put in a geographic limiter like a city or a zip code, and then you can put in an industry code and get a result of essentially a list of businesses that are in that geographic area working in that industry. Then you can make an Excel file from that, and you can get a really nice list to do some either looking for customers or your competition there, doing more of that research for your business plan. And we're not going to do that in this resource today. I'm going to show you a second one where you can do that, but US businesses is a good place for that kind of research. Today, we're going to use the US Consumers and Lifestyles database. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And on the off chance you were looking for a very specific person, you can use the quick search where you can put in a first and last name, and possibly you'll get a result in the database here. But since we're not looking for a specific person, we're looking for sort of an aggregate level search, we can do an advanced search. All right, so the first thing to ask you here is how many contacts per household that you want. I always kind of just put this on 1 per household. I think that's the data that we need here. And on the left-hand side, you'll see all of these limiters, things that we can do to limit our results down to just the people that we want, just the zip codes that we want. So we're going to use the Columbus metropolitan area today. And one kind of note is when you use metropolitan area, you could potentially get zip codes from like surrounding counties. It won't necessarily be Franklin County. So I put in the state, I selected Columbus, and then when you make that selection, it should pop up on the right-hand side here. So now we know we're searching Columbus, Ohio metropolitan area. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit more. And today we're not really going to use this lifestyle search, but I'm going to show you here. If you select this, this pulls up some limiters based on some credit reporting data. So if you have a business that's working in any of these areas, which you can open up by clicking this plus sign, you can narrow your results to some very specific credit reporting data. So if I was in the like cosmetics industry, I could click here. And what that would do is it would limit the results to only people where beauty and cosmetics show up in that credit reporting data, that they're purchasing, frequently purchasing these types of products. In our case with like a bakery, there is something here. There is cooking and wine here. If we were maybe like a very high-end bakery and we were interested in maybe marketing directly to people who are interested in these types of products, we could definitely use that. In our case, though, that's not really what we're focusing on today. You may find that like my products, people who are pet owners are likely to be buying my products. If you find some research that suggests that, then you may even be picking from this lifestyle choice in a way that isn't directly, you might not think is directly related to your industry, but maybe you find that it is. So that's something to consider. But I'm going to remove that from this for right now, and I'm going to focus on consumer snapshot here. So these are things like age, right? For mine, I selected 35 to 44 because I'm trying to get younger families essentially. So these will be like the parents' age. Something like marital status. This isn't to the exclusion of like single parents or anything, but just for fun, we're going to just click on married. And for children present, we do want children present in the home, right? Trying to capture those families here. And we can use these other limiters as well. The only other one that I'm particularly interested in here is income levels. So just as like an example, we're going to do 80,000. We can select multiples of these. I'm going to go up to 199,999. So these are all selected here, and they should all be available on the right-hand side here. That means we've selected them. We've got these other things selected, and I think we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and hit update count. And what this tells us now is that there's 32,419 households in the Columbus metropolitan area that match our target customer demographics. So you will see here this thing that says email count. It is possible to purchase email lists through reference solutions. That's not something that's offered by the library, but that's something that theoretically you could do that. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but if you're interested in that, you can reach out and we can see if we can figure out how that works for you. But we're now going to click view results, and we get this page that looks a little confusing sometimes, but it's basically just asking us like what we want our data to look like. So for us, I think a table is probably what we're going to want here. And we actually we don't need a breakdown of this information here because we're going to get this kind of later. We actually just want zip codes. So we're going to select 5-digit zip code and click show summary. So So what we've got here now is a table ranked currently just in numerical order by zip code. We're going to want to click on this twice so that we sort it from highest to lowest. And these are the household numbers for those zip codes. So we look at those top, I usually just take like the top 5 zip codes. You could do more or less if you want. In this case, we're just going to take these top 5 zip codes, and we're now going to take those zip codes into another resource. So let's say here, though, that you wanted to save this whole list. To save that list, you would just go down to the bottom of the page, and you can either print it or you can click export to Excel, and it will basically make a CSV file for you here, which you can open. It just has those 2 columns of data there, and that way you've got that all saved and you're good to go. So with that information saved, I've got that written down here for me. I'm going to go back to our library resources, and I'm going to scroll up now to demographics now. So this is a really great database where you can get all kinds of information. You can actually do in this people and companies section, you can do something kind of similar to what you can do in reference solutions. I generally find reference solutions to be a little bit easier to use in that capacity, but you're welcome to use that section here as well. We're going to focus today mostly in this demographics section. There are also some mapping tools and other reports that you can generate, and those can be really great. It's just today we're going to focus on the demographics, but definitely reach out if you're interested in those other sections. And there is also a tutorial section where you can learn a little bit more about those other sections. So one of the challenges with demographics now is building a search with multiple geographic areas. If you just have one, it's very easy to just type up here, and you can type, Columbus, Ohio, and it will pop up here. And when you select that, you're good to go. It will say location set up top here. If that's what we wanted to search, that's very simple. Or if we wanted to put one zip code or one county, whatever we wanted to do, if we were just doing one, it's very easy to use. I'm going to delete that for now. We have 5 zip codes that we want to look at. So to do that, we need to click on location options and then go down to geography list. And I'm going to delete Columbus off there. We don't want that on our search. We're going to go down here to zip codes by county. And so what this does here, now we got state, we're going to get, if I remember correctly, the zip codes that we have, I think one of them here is going to actually be in Delaware County. I think it was the 43015 for Delaware. And we can click back on Ohio here to get back to the county list. And we're going to go to Franklin for the rest of these here. So I had 43026, 43081, 43123, and then 43230. So we've got our 5 zip codes there. Now we may realize that, like I said, if in our case, in our sample here, we don't actually have a place of business yet, because these are not necessarily connected zip codes in any way. If you have a business already, you may want to take your zip code and just some of the surrounding zip codes. You may not really need to do that reference solutions portion. You could maybe use that to consider where to expand your business to, right? But if you already have a business, depending on what types of products or services you're selling, you may be just focused on the zip codes right around you and trying to see like, hey, I need to know a little bit more about my customers around me. So in that case, you may just pick some contiguous zip codes right around you. But in our case, we're just going to look at these 5, and I'm going to click done. And you'll see that orange location set up top. That means now that any report that we run is going to be for those 5 zip codes, which is perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the demographics tab here. And what we get here is different types of reports we can run. And I'm really just going to run 2 for us today just to show you the difference. But under report type, we have 3 types. This is basically just asking us what we want our information displayed as. So if we want a comparison, for instance, a comparison will show the data from all 5 zip codes separated in one chart, one table, or one line graph, or whatever it's formatted as. It will show all 5 data points separately. If we do a ranking, it will just rank them, right? Largest to smallest, or whatever, it will rank them. And then the summary will take all of the households from all 5 of those zip codes, or all of that population. It will smash them into one data point. And so we'll learn about those as a whole. So this will be definitely important if you were, let's say you have a zip code where you already have a business and you want to know about the zip codes right around you. A summary is a really nice way to look at that, because that data point, that population, is kind of one uniform population for you, if that makes sense. So I am going to show a summary today first, even though a summary of these zip codes may not make a ton of sense. Then we'll select the report we want. These reports run very quickly, so I recommend just checking out any of these that seem interesting. You can run them. They only take maybe 20, 30 seconds to load. But today, we're going to look at these mosaic reports. We're going to select the mosaic summary index report, and I'm going to click run report. The mosaic reports are these like proprietary market segment reports that Experian has created, where they essentially have taken all of the households in the US, and they've divided them into these groups based on the fact that they have similar characteristics, right? They have similar income levels, similar housing situations, similar like home makeup, right? Whether there's like, kids in the home, things like that. They have some similarities here. It also even goes into like purchasing behavior, marketing behavior, things like that. So across the country, these groups essentially, exist all over the country. And this report is going to tell us which ones are located in the zip codes that we have selected. And it's going to tell us how many households are in each of those. So at the top here, we see a dominant cluster code. We see this G24 ambitious singles, which interestingly enough is not really what we were kind of looking for. We're not necessarily looking for singles for this target customer demographic. We're kind of looking for more for families, but we see that there's 12,600 households in the cluster that fit this group, which is about 10% of the households in this group of 5 zip codes. Okay, that's cool. That's not the group we necessarily wanted, but that's okay. We can scroll down here and we can see, we actually look at the rest of these groups here. So there's group A, and underneath here, there's 6 subgroupings. And here, we're going to see that based on these names here, I love this one, Kids in Cabernet here. What we're getting at there is these are more of the wealthier households in the US, located in some of these zip codes here. But we're going to go down one more, and we see there's a group called Flourishing Families. That sounds like our target group. That's kind of what we want. We want families that have a solid income level, but we want them to have, kids in the home, things like that. And we see that collectively, this group has 23.2% of the households in those 5 zip codes. That's a good sign. That's good. So we're going to go ahead and actually just look at this group as a whole. So we're going to click on Group B, Flourishing Families. And now we learn what that means. So all of these reports, A through S, 1 through 71 or something like that, I think there are, they all look the same, but the data will be different. Page 1 will always look like this, where it is a sort of overview of this group. We get this section here in the middle where it says who we are. These are the largest, this will be the largest section of this grouping, right? So the largest section of this grouping, 33.4% fit between this 36 to 45-year-old range, which is exactly what our target was. We see their average, the largest group's household income, et cetera. We see some key features here where it says, they're affluent, charitable contributors, athletic activities, saving for college, high credit card use, and family-oriented activities. Those are some things that we can think about. Family-oriented activities is something that's like, okay, they might be interested in these sort of like parties and things like that. That's a good sign for us, I think. And then also here we see a channel preference and their technology adoption here, their level of ability with tech. They're pretty good with tech stuff, and we see these channel preferences. So these icons are a little bit confusing maybe. Television, that one's pretty obvious. The one with the dots here, that's for texting. This is for email. for regular mail, for radio, and then for social media with the thumbs up there. And essentially, these are index ratings. So anything at 100 level means that they're average for the country. If it's above 100, that means that it's above average for them. So they would prefer these ones that are listed in the 100s, right? So especially here, we see that social media and email marketing would be the best way maybe to market to this group here. So some interesting information there that we can definitely take. We'll move on to the second page, which is a big list of index ratings. So again, this middle bar on these, that would be average for the country. So if it is to the left of that bar, that means that it is below average. If it's to the right of that bar, that means it's above average. So just some other information for us here. You can learn a little bit more. This group definitely has kids at home. So again, we kind of do have our target audience here for us. It just wasn't immediately obvious by looking at that report. The third page of these reports will always kind of tell you how to read index, how to read those index. So if you're confused by any of that, you can kind of just go through this and it should help you figure that out. And then the fourth and sometimes fifth pages will be a narrative about this group. And this is where we can kind of learn a little bit more about them and how to market to them. These are not specific to like Columbus or something like that. This will be as a whole, this group across the US, this is a narrative about them. So you're going to have to maybe extrapolate that a little bit to the specifics of Columbus. But in general, it will give you a good kind of overview. And it literally starts with a paragraph that says how to market to them. So it does mention here that your best bet for engaging flourishing families' households lies in digital and streaming TV advertising. So if that's something that's possible for you to do, that would be the ideal way to market to them. There's definitely other ways, but that would be maybe the best way to do it. It says target flourishing families with seasonal ads across all verticals, financial service options, and competitively priced travel packages. So some things to think about there. And you get this narrative. This one actually does go to a fifth page here a little bit. So it'll just kind of tell you more about them. And that's what those mosaic reports look like. So those are really great. A lot of useful information there, and pretty easy to run these reports. So I'm going to close this. And so we ran this as a summary here. Another little trick about demographics now is if you want to run a second report, just go right back to the top of the page. You don't need to hit the back button. If you hit the back button, it will go back to the library's website and you'll have to go back into demographics now. So just scroll right back up to the top, and we're going to switch this to a comparison. And then we're going to run essentially the same report down here. A mosaic comparison report. Run report. And you'll see what I mean when I said that you'll get the data points separate. Now we get each zip code listed separately with that same information, but for each individual zip code. So what we may find, is that these flourishing families, we may find that they're kind of focused in a certain zip code. There's definitely a lot in Hilliard. If we want to know more about this across the ages group, because of that, we can click on this one and get more information. But we also see that these two zip codes here, which was Grove City and this other Columbus zip code, those ones, might also be a good place for us to consider. So that's why you might want to view these data points separately, because you may find that disproportionately one group is represented in one of these versus, like if for instance, we were targeting this sort of wealthier families, we do find that they're much less likely to show up in these other zip codes than they are maybe in the Delaware or that Hilliard zip code. So that's some things to consider with this. So that's how you really use demographics now. That's kind of the main thing I wanted to show here. There is also this help section. If you wanted to just look at any of these mosaic groups without going through all that searching, the challenge will be that you won't know where they're located. But if you wanted to just read through some of these, you can access them by clicking on help. There is also this mosaic icon definitions. This will tell you how to read those reports as well. So just wanted to show that there. Now I'm going to go back to our business resources, and I'm going to show you how to do a little bit of kind of an industry research a little bit here. We're going to go to Mergent Intellect, which is kind of, I would say, the third most important resource. Reference Solutions, Demographics Now, Mergent Intellect, all three of these we use very frequently. This is a great one for both company research and for industry research. If you have a specific company you want to look for, you can just type this right here, or an executive or an industry. You can use this search bar up top, but I usually go in through one of these sort of sub areas here. There's an advanced search that you can use. We will use that. Well, we can go ahead and do that now. I'm going to click on advanced search. And what we're going to build here is a search for our competition. We're going to look at other bakeries. So if we were looking at Canadian or international companies, we can add those to our search here. But we're not going to do that today. We're just going to use a location here. So we're going to start with a state. We're going to select Ohio. We're going to scroll down and click Add to Criteria here. So now we're only searching companies based in Ohio. We're going to limit this more to city here, and we're going to type Columbus and click Add to Criteria. And you're going to see this number is going to keep shrinking, which is great. That's what we want. And we're building this search down in the gray area. We're now going to go to an industry, and we're going to use a NAICS code here. So important to know this. Click on your NAICS code, click NAICS keyword search. You can type something like bakery. That would work just fine. In our case, we do kind of know the code. We found it through some of that research. We can use that 311811. And this is for retail bakeries. We can click on that, click Add to Criteria. And in Reference Solutions, this is where you have to kind of play around with things a little bit. It only is finding 11 companies, or in Mergent Intellect, sorry. If you do it in Reference Solutions, you may find more. You may find that you need to adjust this code slightly, but this will work just fine for us. We're going to go ahead and click search here. And we're going to get a list of these bakeries here in the Columbus area. And it's going to be sorted by this sales volume here. So we're just for fun here, we're going to look at Pam Cakes. That's a great name here. We're going to click on this one, and we get a little information about, we get a phone number. Up at the top, we get an address here. So they're here in Columbus Grove, Ohio. Sometimes you will also get a website here, which is nice. There is a way it will take you directly to where they're at in Google Maps as well. You can click on these financial details, and we're going to get an estimate for the annual sales, and the number of employees at this location. The employee number may be an accurate number, but in this case, we do see that it's kind of stagnant. So it's hard to say for sure that that's 100% accurate here. I would take these as estimates. We get the industry details. So this is one way to access an industry report. I'm going to show you a second way. It is interesting here. We see this nice baked goods retailers. So that's a different industry code. So that may tip us off to another code to do some searching in. So that's something that, hey, we learned a new thing here already. And so we can look at an industry report this way. I'm going to show you another way to access that, but that will be a PDF that will tell you more about this industry. So a good place to get some general industry research done. And then we can also look at executive details. And this will often have, in this case, that's probably like the principal here, principal owner, something like that, their name. And we can get a little bit more information about them. If they are part of like a chain, for instance, you can click on family tree and you'll get that information. You'll learn what the primary corporation is. And if this is like a branch like that, right, you would see all those other locations. We can go back here a couple times to that result, the list here. If we wanted to just save this full list, we can go ahead and click on all and scroll over, scroll back up here to where it says build files. And what it does here is it defaults to the parts of the record that are most likely present. There are some other things that you'll see down here. If you are researching some major corporations, something like Coca-Cola or something like that, that have to report to the SEC a lot of these other documents, you can pull that information in this report as well. What it defaults to up here is what is most likely going to be provided in that record. So I usually just leave it at the default level, and we'll scroll all the way down here and we can name this. I'm just going to say, I often use like the NAICS code, for instance. This is just my own personal preference, because sometimes once you've gotten this file, you forget how you got it. You forget what the search was. So sometimes I'll just use the NAICS code in there. You click build files, and it will take a second here. If you have a particularly large file with a lot of entries in it, you will have to email it to yourself. But if it's a smaller file like this, we can go ahead and just click download your file, and we can open this up here. So we get this list of 11 companies. We can hit enable editing, and I like to just go ahead and just format it as a table and click OK here. And now you've got a list here, and we can scroll to the right. We've got all that information from those records about them, and we can sort this how we want to sort it, and then you'll just want to make sure you've got it saved as an actual Excel file. But you'll have all this data, and you'll be able to kind of do some competitor research that way. And like I said, if you were looking for potential customers and you wanted to maybe sell your baked goods to like a coffee shop or something like that, you can build a potential customer list the same way. You'll just use a different NAICS code for that. So I'm going to go back to Emergent Intellect here. I'm going to show one other thing I noticed as I was building this list. One of the things we see here is like this name here, Matthew D. Watson. So if we click on this, we may find, in this case we don't yet, but it is possible that this person just they have an LLC, but they haven't necessarily registered. They don't necessarily have a name like a such and such bakery. Sometimes you'll see a secondary name here. So that may be, in this case, the legal name, but they may have a company name that will be different. Those records didn't necessarily have that, but I did want to mention that sometimes it may not seem like this is a related kind of situation, but you may find when you actually dig into it that it is an actual bakery or something like that. So that's the general way to use Emergent Intellect for sort of a company research. There is also this demographic section, which I want to show kind of quickly. And this can pull some similar information to what we did in Demographics Now. I will say in general, well, some of it is not as detailed. Some of it is really great and really detailed. I'm just going to do, just for fun here, this county level. So we're going to select Ohio, and we're going to select Franklin County, and just click here for search for demographics. So it's going to give us a variety of reports that we can look at. These are all PDFs or Excel files, depending on what you want. I mentioned like the mosaic reports in Demographics Now. This has Emergent Intellect has something called Prism Household Distribution. It's a very similar sort of report, but it does not have anywhere near the detail that you'll get from those mosaic reports. But I did want to mention that because you'll see that in some of these reports. But if you want some more information about that, you can view these Prism segment definitions here. And when we see them in the report, I'm going to scroll down to about page 12 here or so. This will kind of tell you more about how they're situated in both here income and how they're grouped together in similar groupings. So you're not going to get the same detail. And in fact, I can show you here. For instance, this is the Y1 midlife success section here. You're only going to really get like a paragraph. You're not going to get all of that demographic data that you get from Mosaic, but it is kind of nice to look at. It is another data point. But the value in this demographic section here is if we look here at Let's just run, I think the demographic overview might be a good one to look at here. Actually, I'm going to do the demographic quick facts. I think that will be plenty of good information for us here. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to click on build files here. And while that's building here and doing our little, it's going to send me an email, and I will open that up in a second here and try to get that for us. So it'll take a second to send me that. I'm going to go and show one other thing here. I think I've covered most of what I want to cover in Emergent Intellect, except for this first research section. So in first research, this is where you get that industry report, which I mentioned you can get through looking at specific business records, like we were looking at those bakeries. Here, you're just going to want to get into this by putting a email address in there. The one thing I'll say is you don't actually need to, you're not going to get any emails from them. You need to put in an email, but you won't get any kind of spam emails, anything like that. The only reason you would get any kind of report from them would be if you sign up for it through this. So if you don't sign up for anything, you're not going to get any emails. That's okay. It just wants that to let you in here. So here for these industry and geographic profiles, we're going to go ahead and we can just put in bakery as a search term and see what comes up here. So there's a few things that come up. So bakery product manufacturing with the NAICS code, that 31181. That's one report we can get. There's some information about cookie and cracker manufacturing, coffee shops, which are obviously, a lot of times have baked goods, other things like that might be related. But we're just going to click on the bakery product manufacturing one. And we're going to get a really awesome industry overview report from this. And it might take a second to load. Sometimes this resource is a little slower. What we get is a report from February 12th, 2024. So pretty up to date here. They're about quarterly, I would say. If we wanted to view older reports, we can do that, and I'll show that in a second. But it loads automatically in this sort of web format. We see an industry overview, industry growth rating. We see a quarterly industry update. It used to pull some information from Twitter. It doesn't currently do that, but possibly that will be available again in the future. Some industry indicators, things to think about that are related to your industry, like grain prices, things like that. Industry drivers, commodity prices, energy prices, as well as an industry forecast. And one of the things that I really like is we go down a little bit farther. We also have these industry websites. So you may not know about the American Bakers Association. Hey, maybe I should learn more about this industry lobbying organization that's related to my industry. So you could just click right on that and go straight to their website and learn more about them. The Baker's Journal, all these kinds of things here, industry websites that might be helpful. I'm going to go back up to the top here, and on the left-hand side, we see this option for a PDF version. If we want to download this, we can just say select all chapters and click create and download PDF. So it'll take a second here, and it's going to build that PDF for us, and we'll be able to look at that in a second here. So yeah, here's that PDF. So tells you the NAICS code and when it's from. Same information all here for you in a nice PDF that you can print. Most of these are about 15 to 20 pages or so. And I do want to show you here, just in case you wanted to see older ones, you can view these past reports all the way back to the early 2000s here. And you can create the same kind of PDF if you wanted for some reason to see that older information. So that's the first research database. I am going to try to, I got my report that we were looking at here, those demographic reports. I'm going to see if I can pull this up on my screen on this side. Hopefully that will be shared here for you. this is that demographic quick facts that we selected here. So it took a couple minutes to pop up in my email. You can click through here. So we looked at Franklin County. We get a few data points, which is really nice. We get the 2010, 2020, and then an estimate for 2024 and a projection for 2029. So that can be really helpful, kind of knowing like, okay, hey, I'm in a growing zip code or I'm in a growing city, county, however you want to look at this. We get, what else do we get here? So we get some demographic quick facts, like, ethnicity and racial breakdown of the county, income level breakdown, all sorts of charts and things, just different data points that might be helpful for you in your research. And this one does not have those PRISM household that I was showing before, those PRISM household reports, but some of the other ones do. So just wanted you to be aware of those as well. So that's the demographic quick facts, and that's how you use merchant intellect in general. That's the last resource I'm going to demo today. One thing I didn't mention early on, when you're on the library's homepage, if you just want some good old-fashioned books on business, we make it very easy to find that. Right here where it says I'm looking for, you can just go ahead and you can do a search for small business, and it will just pull books related to that subject. The nice thing here is on the left-hand side, you can do all these limiters here. If you want ebooks, if you want books, if you need large print, audiobooks, all these kinds of things, you can use these limiters on the side here to narrow that result, just like we did with those other resources. If you find here, oh, this isn't at my library, it's not at my closest library, that's okay. You can go ahead and you can place a hold, and we can have it sent to you. Usually, if it's available at one of our libraries, it usually is, if you selected that today, it would probably be at our library that we wanted next week sometime. So you can get that very quickly, very easy to get, pretty convenient there. If you do come to the main library, we do have a large business book collection as well. So keep that in mind. All right. So that is the last resource that I really wanted to share. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen here. Like I mentioned earlier, definitely reach out to me. I know this was a very quick, very high level overview of a lot of these resources. Hopefully some of those stand out to you as something that would be very helpful. I don't know if Kevin has anything else to add, but I did want to say definitely business@columbuslibrary.org. That is the way to reach out to me directly. And we can definitely set up a time to meet, and we can do these kind of same searches. We can just do them one-on-one specifically for your business and get you started on that. So, yeah. I think Kevin, you might be muted here.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, thank you, Ryan. That was a great video. A lot of great resources. I mean, honestly, I know a lot about market research, but I learned a few things today.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so that's great. So once again, thank you very much for your time. We love the partnership with the Columbus Library, and sometimes we forget we have one of the best, top 3 typically in the United States libraries right here in our backyard. So I hope everyone gets to utilize that. And once again, we thank you for your time today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Great. All right, Ryan, we'll take care.
Yeah.
All right.
Hopefully that was good.
Okay. We'll see you.
Yeah. See you.